This week from Al-Musawat Radio. Al-Musawat Radio is the right place to know everything. Welcome to all of you dear listeners. This is the weekly news coverage coming your way with This Week from Al-Musawat radio station. And the beginning goes with the 14th Conference on Combating Traffic in Women Network in Iraq. Organization of Women's Freedom organizes the 14th Conference on Combating Traffic in Women Network. Organization of Women's Freedom in Iraq organized the events of the 14th Conference on Combating Traffic in Women Network over the course of 2 consecutive days from June 3rd until June 4th, 2022. The first day events began in the presence of Organization of Women's Freedom Director Mrs. Yanar Mohammed and were attended by the organization's stakeholders and its subordinate branch directors in the governorates alongside the participation of the network organizations from central, southern and western Iraq with the attendance of their directors or representatives in the conference. The final draft Act on Protection Against Family Violence was read during the conference as notes were taken over some of its chapters. Interventions from the attendees were heard, including activists and legal experts over various laws related to the life of women in Iraq. The attendees expressed discontent and resentment towards laws that permit the killing of women and exposure to violence and marginalization. Directors of organizations talked then about their organization's mechanism of action in helping women and minorities and how to build bridges of cooperation among the organizations within the common geographical area. The discussions were broadened on the second day of the conference, which saw the presence of governmental bodies representatives, including Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, during which representatives of Community Police Department of Ministry of Interior also attended the conference, while its members commended the work of the organization and the cooperation it shows in sheltering and protecting the battered women. The conference was opened by a keynote speech from Organization of Women's Freedom Director Mrs. Yanar Mohammed, of which she demanded the amendment, repeal and freeze of the laws that oppress women in our society, expose them to murder and violence, and defend criminals. The attending organizations stated their views to the governmental bodies' representatives concerning the laws, during which they demanded their amendment or freeze until enacting laws based on equality and justice to all members of society and women's freedom of male domination in writing some of these laws. The conference concluded with thanking all the officials and women's rights activists who participated, working hard for a better life for all women, not only in Iraq but all over the world. Organization of Women's Freedom in Iraq Kirkuk branch held a seminar over women's rights and rural women at home and post-ISIS women's situation. The seminar was held in cooperation and coordination with with Federation of Workers' Councils and Unions in Iraq Kirkuk branch and Salahuddin branch, Al-Hawija district, Al-Zab sub-district, Al-Sabih al-Fawqani village, which overlooks the river of Tigris. With the participation of 24 women, the session was opened by Organization of Women's Freedom Coordinator in Kirkuk, Sharsh Omar Rida, welcoming the attendees and giving detailed explanation for the aims of the organization. Then, Head of Branch Ms. Fatma Kaifuddin and organization's member Najla Behjat addressed the attendees during which women's situations in these areas severely attacked by ISIS and rural women's at-home rights were discussed. The first day events of Combating Traffic in Women Network conference, which was held at the Organization of Women's Freedom in Iraq auditorium, were concluded on June 3, 2022, with the participation of the network's organizations from Central, Southern and Western Iraq, during which the final draft act on protection against family violence was read and notes were taken over some of the Act's chapters. The work of the network's organizations, the major areas of responsibility and services they provide within their geographical area. Human rights activists say number of what's so-called honor killing in Iran is increasing. Honor killing, simply the murder of a woman, often by her family male. The victim gets killed by a male family member or her spouse for being accused of bringing dishonor to the family with her behavior. The term is highly controversial, for it brings the thought of honor into brutal crime. And next we have United Nations Population Fund UNFPA has declared the percentage of women married before the age of 18 in Iraq rose to 25.500%, with lower proportion in Kurdistan, pointing out that it seeks to address this issue by organizing a conference in cooperation with the Iraqi government. The statement issued by the United Nations Population Fund on Thursday, June 9th, indicated that the percentage of women married before the age of 18 in Iraq has reached 25.500%, while the findings of the survey showed that the percentage for the same indicator reached 22.600% in Kurdistan, according to findings of the Integrated Health, Social and National Survey for Iraqi Women, which is conducted in partnership with the Central Bureau of Statistics and Kurdistan Region Statistics Office, with the support of the United Nations Population Fund Iraq Office for 2021. The statement added that large rise of early marriage has been recently observed within the last 10 years, as this issue very often deprives girls of access to empowerment factors and could place burdens and obstacles in the way of her education and development. And next we have Merkel refuses to apologize for her relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Merkel is accused of her contribution to what the situation has reached in Ukraine due to appeasing the Russian President Vladimir Putin and showing no pressure on his policies throughout the 16 years she took office as Chancellor. During a stage event at the Berliner Ensemble Theater, Merkel defended using diplomacy with Putin even if the Russian president eventually invaded Ukraine. Merkel said that she tried to avoid the disaster and diplomacy isn't wrong just because it hasn't worked. Besides, Merkel added that she doesn't see now that she has to say diplomacy is wrong with Putin. That's why I won't apologize. And next we have, in a statement issued on Thursday, Iraqi Commission of Integrity disclosed an embezzlement in state banks and $700 million falsification, tampering and money laundering of public finance, of which over 41 persons are involved, including employees, customers, corporations, and individuals. Iraq has ranked 157 out of 180 countries on the world's most corrupt countries indicator, according to the Transparency International Index for 2021. The Commission, which is an anti-corruption governmental body, has announced in its statement that an investigative team it formed has found a large amount of public finance embezzled through falsification, altering, tampering, and money laundering, abuse of powers, tampering of banking restrictions, and enhancing fictitious credits to customers' accounts. And next we have, Taliban has decided to order women to wear all covering clothes in public places and better stay at home. Taliban's government has issued a decree approved by Afghanistan and Taliban Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada, of which it stipulates women should wear burqa in public areas. Taliban also clarified it prefers women to wear burqa, however, it announced later it accepts women to wear hijab that covers their faces except the eyes. Taliban also confirmed that if women have no important work outside, they are better to stay at home. The end of this week's news coverage. Stay tuned to Al-Musawat radio station. Please accept the best regards from me, your host, right here behind the mic, Taif najjar, and from the producer right there behind the mixer, Hisham alkhayat. Join us next week. Have a nice day and goodbye.